Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Pashmina. Today we are discuss the oral cavity. These are the learning objective of our study. Today we discuss the anatomy of the oral cavity and the palate, soft palate and hard palate. Then we describe in details of the muscles forming oral cavity, tongue and the palate. Then we discuss the blood supply, venous drainage, lymphatics of the oral cavity and the innervations of the oral cavity as well. And at the last, we will discuss the applied anatomy of the oral region. Okay. So this is the oral region. In the oral region, it includes the oral cavity, teeth, gingiva, tongue, palates. These are the hard palate and this is a soft palate, and the palatine tonsils. So in the oral region, we have the oral cavity, we have the palate, hard palate, soft palate, we have the teeth and gingiva, we have the cheeks, and we have the palatine tonsils. All these structures are included in the heading of the oral region. You can see here in the oral region, we have the oral cavity, teeth, gingiva, tongue, palate, and the palatine tonsils. So the oral cavity, it consists of the two parts. It is inferior to the nasal cavity. Food and the drinks are tasted and masticated within the oral cavity. It is inlet for the digestive system. Initially, processing of the food mixed with the salivary secretions. It manipulates the sound, and the end product of the outcome is a speech. It also used in the breathing because it's open into the pharynx. So you can see here, this is the oral cavity. It consists of the two parts, the oral vestibule. This is the oral cavity. In the oral cavity, we have the two parts. Like this is the vestibule. You can see this is the vestibule. Between the cheeks and the teeth and the gingiva, we have the outer part of the oral cavity. This is the oral vestibule. And this is the oral cavity proper, in which we have the tongue, we have the inferior surfaces of the soft palate, the hard palate and the soft palate, and we have the palatine tonsils. We have the oral isthmus posteriorly, and anteriorly we have the oral fissure. So this is the oral cavity proper, and this is the vestibule. So the oral cavity itself, it is divided into the oral cavity proper or the mouth cavity proper and the oral vestibule. So you can see here, this is the oral cavity, this is the oral cavity proper, or you can see here, this is the oral cavity proper. This whole is the oral cavity, in which we have the tongue, we have the oropharyngeal isthmus posteriorly. Between the oropharyngeal isthmus, we have the palatine tonsils. Here we have the anterior fissures or the anterior opening of the oral cavity, and just between the lips and the cheeks and the teeth, this part of the oral cavity, it is known as a vestibule. So the vestibule, it is the outer cavity of the it is the outer cavity of the oral cavity, and this is the mouth cavity, which is the oral cavity proper. It is also used known as the oral cavity proper. Now you can see here, this is the oral cavity. You can see here, this is the oral cavity. It is inferior to the nasal cavities. This is the hard palate, which is formed by the bony structures of the maxilla and the palatine bones, and the posteriorly we have the soft palate, which is the muscular structure and covered by the mucous membrane. And this is the oral cavity. In the oral cavity, we have the tongue. The major structure is the tongue. We have the tonsils, the palatine tonsils. We have the lingual tonsils over there. And this is the outer, we have the oral vestibule. You can see here, this is the oral vestibule. So the oral vestibule, it is a slit-like space between the teeth and gingiva and the lips and cheeks. The vestibule communicates with the exterior through the oral fissures. And the size of the oral fissure is controlled by the muscles of the mouth or muscles of the lips. Like we have the orbicularis oris. It closes the oral fissure, while we have the muscles of the upper and the lower group of the lips. They dilate the oral vestibule. So the oral vestibule or the oral fissure, it is controlled by the closing and the opening of this is controlled by the muscles of the facial expressions that closes or open the oral fissure. It is the exterior opening of the oral cavity and the oral vestibule. This is the oral fissure. You can see here, this is the oral fissure. And the oral cavity proper, this is the oral cavity proper, or here we have the oral cavity proper. It is a space between the upper and the lower dental arches. You can see this is the upper dental arches and this is the lower dental arches. So the oral cavity proper, it is a space between the upper and the lower dental arches, and it is bounded in anteriorly and laterally by the dental arches as well. The posterior of oral cavity, it is communicate with the oropharyngeal isthmus. You can see here, posteriorly it is communicate with the oropharyngeal isthmus, which is a part of the pharynx. So posteriorly, the oral cavity proper, it is communicate with the pharynx through the oropharyngeal isthmus, and anteriorly we discuss like it is the communicate with the exterior through the oral fissure, which is controlled by the muscles of the facial expressions, like it opens or closes the oral fissure, which is the exterior opening of the oral cavity and the oral vestibule. As the oral cavity, it is a cavity, so it has the boundaries, it has the roof, it has the floor, it has the lateral boundaries. So the roof of the oral cavity, it is formed because the oral cavity, it is inferior to the nasal cavity. So the roof is formed by the hard palate. The anterior 2/3 of the roof, it is formed by the hard palate, which is formed by the maxilla and the palatine bones, while the posterior 1/3 of the oral cavity, it is bounded by the roof, it is bounded by the soft palate, which is the composed of the muscles of the soft palate, and it is covered with the mucous membrane, as well as the this bony structure, it is covered by the mucous membrane. You can see here, it is covered by the mucous membrane. And the roof of the oral cavity, it separates the nasal cavity with the oral cavity as well. The floor of the oral cavity, it is formed by the muscular diaphragm. The muscular diaphragm include the muscles of the oral cavity, like we have the mylohyoid, we have the genohyoid muscle, and the tongue. These three structures, they form the floor of the oral cavity. Laterally, we have the cheeks, which is bounded by the, which is composed of the bulk of the buccinator muscles. So externally, they are covered with the skin, and internally they are covered with the mucous membrane. So the lateral boundaries of the oral cavity, we have the cheeks. In the roof, we have the hard palate, anterior 2/3, and the posterior 1/3, it is formed by the soft palate. The floor of the oral cavity, it is formed by the tongue and the muscles of the oral cavity, which is known as the muscles of the oral diaphragm, and this includes the mylohyoid muscle and the genohyoid muscles. And these muscles, they are the they separate the oral cavity with the rest of the suprahyoid muscles. Now the skeleton framework of the oral cavity. Bone that contribute to the skeleton framework of the oral cavity, it includes the maxilla, the palate. We have the sphenoid bone as well. We have the medial and the lateral pterygoid plates of the sphenoid bone. We have the temporal bone as well. And then we have the mandible bone, which also contribute in the formation of the oral cavity, because the lower jaw, it is bounded by the mandible. And we have the hyoid bone, because the muscles of the, most of the muscles of the tongue, they take origin from the hyoid bone, and also the muscles of the oral diaphragm, they take origin from the hyoid bone as well. They are inserted, or the origin of the hyoid bone. They take origin and the insertion of the hyoid bone. So the muscles, the bony framework includes the maxilla, we have the palatine bones, we have the sphenoid bone, we have the mandible, we have the temporal bone, and the hyoid bone. All these bones, they take the formation of the skeleton formations of the oral cavity. So we discussed the maxilla. You can see here, this is the maxilla. So the horizontal plates of the maxilla, you can see these are the two horizontal plates of the maxilla. They contribute the skeleton framework of the anterior 2/3 of the hard palate. You can see here, these are the two horizontal plates of the maxilla, which are articulated by the intermaxillary sutures. Intermaxillary suture is a suture, or it is a joint between the two palate of the horizontal plates of the maxilla, and this is the framework of the anterior two-third of the hard palate. You can see here the anterior structure, and just anterior to the intermaxillary sutures, you can see here there is a foramen, and this is the incisive foramen. And through this incisive foramen, we have the greater palatine and the nasopalatine vessels that can travel from the oral cavity into the nasal cavity. Okay. Then on the posteriorly of the hard palate, there is, you can see here, this is the another bone. This is the palatine bones. These are the horizontal plates of the palatine bones that makes the posterior of the hard palate. Actually, this whole is the anterior two-third of the hard palate, the maxilla and the palatine bones. So the anterior, it is formed by the maxilla, and the posterior, it is formed by the horizontal plates of the palatine bones. And these two palatine bones, again, they are articulate each other by the interpalatine sutures, and just posterior to the interpalatine suture, you can see here there's a spine, and this is known as a pyramidal process of the palatine bone. This is known as a this is known as a posterior nasal spine. Okay, so this is the spine on the posteriorly on the suture, interpalatine sutures. You can see here, this is the posterior nasal spine. Just lateral to the posterior nasal spine on the palatine process of the palatine bone, horizontal plates of the palatine bone, you can see here there is another foramens, and these foramens are the lesser and the greater palatine foramens for the traveling of the vessels. So the greater and the lesser palatine vessels, they can travel from the oral cavity into the nasal cavity through these foramens. Then we have the sphenoid. You can see here, this is the sphenoid bone. We have the medial and the lateral plate of the pterygoid processes. They also contribute to the formation of the roof of the oral cavity, because the muscles of the soft palate take origin from these structures, from the humulus, from the medial and the lateral pterygoid processes, from the posterior margins of the hard palate. You can see here, these are the posterior free margins of the hard palate. So the muscles of the soft palate take origin from these structures, from the medial and the lateral pterygoid processes, from the thickness part of the temporal bone as well. So the anterior two-third of the hard roof of the oral cavity, it is formed by the hard palate, which is composed of the maxilla and the palatine bones, and this is covered by the mucous membrane. While the posterior one-third of the oral cavity, the roof of the oral cavity, roof of the oral cavity, it is formed by the soft palate, which is formed by the muscles that take origin from the posterior margins of the hard palate. So you can see here, this is the oral cavity proper, and this is the vestibule. So the oral cavity itself, it is divided into two parts. This is the oral cavity proper, and this is the oral vestibule. So the oral vestibule, it is a slit-like space which is bounded by the teeth and the lips, and laterally by the cheeks. And this oral vestibule, the upper vestibule, upper oral vestibule, it is attached with the mucous membrane of the hard palate by means of the labile frenulum of the upper lip, and we have the lower lip, or it is bounded with the lower lip by means of the inferior labile frenulum of the lower limb. So this is the vestibule. It is a slit-like space, or you can say it is a horseshoe-shaped space. And this oral vestibule, it is communicate with the oral cavity proper by means of the retromolar space. You can see here, this is the retromolar space just behind the third molar. Just behind the third molar, we have the communication between the oral vestibule and the oral cavity proper when the mouth is closed. But when the mouth is open, it cannot be communicate. So this is the anterior opening of the oral cavity through the oral fissure, and you can see here, this is the oral oropharyngeal isthmus. So this is the posterior opening of the oral cavity proper with the oropharynx through the oropharyngeal isthmus. And the oral cavity proper itself, it is bounded with the posterior surfaces of the dental arches, Oropharyngeal isthmus posteriorly, we have the dental arches medially, we have the cheeks medially, as well as we have the floor, it is bounded by the tongue and the oral diaphragm, and the floor, it is bounded by the hard palate and the soft palate. You can see here, this is the soft palate and this is the hard palate. So the vestibule, it lies between the lips and the cheeks externally and the gums and the teeth internally. It is a slit-like space. The oral vestibule, it is a slit-like space. It communicates with the exterior through the oral fissure between the lips when the jaws are closed. It communicates with the mouth proper behind the third molar tooth on each side through the retromolar spaces. The vestibule is limited above and below by the reflection of the mucous membrane from the lips and the cheeks to the gums. The lateral wall of the vestibule, it is formed by the cheeks, which is made up of the buccinator muscle. The bulk of the buccinator muscle, it makes the lateral wall of the vestibule. It is covered externally by that skin, and internally it is covered by the mucous membrane. So the mucous membrane, which is attached to the buccinator muscle by the elastic fibers. So the elastic fibers, these are very special elastic fibers. They adherent the mucous membrane with the buccinator muscle, and they prevent the unnecessary folds of the mucous membrane when the mouth is closed. Because these are the mucus, if there is an unnecessary folds of the mucous membrane occur, it may be bitten between the teeth. So the elastic fibers, which is attached the mucous membrane with the buccinator muscle, it prevents the unnecessary fold of the mucous membrane when the mouth is closed, to prevent the bitten between the teeth. The tone of the buccinator muscle and that of the muscle of the lips keeps the wall of the vestibule in contact with one another, because they are controlled, the opening and the closing of the mouth, it is controlled by the muscles of the facial expression, like we have the orbicularis oris, and we have the muscles of the upper and the lower group of the oral region. Then we have the duct of the parotid salivary glands. It also open into the, you can see the duct of the oral duct of the parotid gland, it is open in the vestibule just behind, just opposite the upper second molar tooth. So the characteristic feature of the oral cavity, oral vestibule, we have the duct which is open in the just opposite the upper second molar tooth. Okay, now you can see here, this is the oral retromolar space. So this is the vestibule and this is the oral cavity proper. This is the tongue. Posterior to the tongue, we have the genoid and the mylohyoid muscles. So the oral vestibule, it is communicate with the oral cavity proper through this space, and this space is known as a retromolar region. It is just behind that third molar tooth. When the mouth is closed, these two spaces, they are communicate. The oral vestibule, it is communicate with the oral cavity proper through this retromolar region. Now, as I told you, the oral cavity proper, it has a roof which is formed by the soft palate and the hard palate. Then we have the floor of the oral cavity, and the floor of the oral cavity, it is bounded by the tongue and the reflection of the tongue with the mucous membrane from side of the tongue to the gums of the mandible. Then we have the folds of the mucous membrane called the frenulum of the tongue. They connect the under surface of the tongue in the middle to the floor of the oral cavity. I can show you this. Now you can see here. You can see here, again here. This is the inferior surface of the tongue. You can see it. This is the inferior surface of the tongue. So the tongue, it is connected with the mucous membrane of the oral cavity by the muscular fold, by the mucosal fold, and this fold of the mucosa in the midline that connect the inferior surface of the tongue with the oral cavity, floor of the oral cavity, it is known as the frenulum of the tongue. Just lateral to the frenulum of the tongue, you can see here another structure. This is the zigzag structure or the tortuous course of the lingual vein. You can see here, this is a blue color structure just lateral to the frenulum of the tongue. And the frenulum of the tongue, it is a mucosal fold that connect the inferior surface of the oral cavity with the oral cavity, floor of the oral cavity. Now you can see here, On the anterior to the frenulum, you can see here there is a opening of the ducts. We have the this is the sublingual papilla. So in the sublingual papilla, we have the opening of the duct of the submandibular gland and the sublingual glands. You can see here these are the fold of the mucous membrane that covers the duct of the sublingual and the submandibular glands. Again here, this is the frenulum of the tongue that connect the inferior of the inferior of the tongue with the oral cavity, floor of the oral cavity, and just lateral to the frenulum on the anteriorly, we have, you can see here the opening of the submandibular ducts. You can see here in the sublingual papilla. Now you can see here again, this is the floor of the oral cavity in which we have the mylohyoid muscle and we have the genoid muscle. Above these muscle, we have the structure of the tongue. Here we have the sublingual, we have the submandibular gland. This is the deep part and the superficial part of the submandibular gland that encircles the mylohyoid muscle. Okay, and this is the sublingual gland, and these are the ducts of the submandibular gland that are open into the sublingual papilla just lateral to the frenulum of the tongue. You can see here. Okay. Now walls of the oral cavity, again the lateral wall of the oral cavity, it is made up of the buccinator muscle. The bulk of the buccinator muscle, it can make the lateral wall of the oral cavity. Externally, it is covered with the skin, and internally, it is covered with the mucous membrane by the elastic fibers. The special elastic fibers, it attach the mucous membrane with the buccinator, and function of these elastic fibers, they prevent the unnecessary folds of the mucous membrane to be bitten between the tongue, to be bitten between the teeth when the mouth is closed. And the control of the oral fissure or the exterior of the exterior opening of the oral cavity, it is controlled by the orbiculus muscle, along with the muscles of the facial expression, like we have the depressor labii, echinacea, we have the mentalis, we have the all these muscles, they control the opening and the closing of the oral fissure. Again, the floor of the oral cavity, it is made up of the mylohyoid muscle. The mylohyoid muscle, it is the diaphragm between the oral cavity and the rest of the neck muscle. Like we have the suprahyoid muscles and infrahyoid muscle. So this mylohyoid muscle, they separate the rest of the suprahyoid muscle with the oral cavity. So this is the muscular diaphragm, which is formed by the mylohyoid muscle. And just superior to the mylohyoid muscle, we have another muscle, we have the genoid muscle. Just superior to the genoid, we have the tongue. So the three structure, they makes the oral floor of the oral cavity. That's it's the mylohyoid, then we have the genoid, and we have the tongue. Okay, the mylohyoid muscle, they are the two thin triangular shaped muscle that makes the diaphragm and the interior limits of the oral cavity. It is attached on the medial side of the mandible. You can see here, they take origin, the mylohyoid muscle, it is a triangular shaped muscle, it is a thin muscle, and they separate the oral cavity with the rest of the muscles of the neck region. And it is also it is bounded the inferior limits of the oral cavity. Beyond this, we don't have any oral cavity. So it is a triangular shaped muscle. They take origin from the mylohyoid line on the medial surface of the mandibular bone. You can see here we have the mylohyoid line. From this mylohyoid line on the medial surface of the mandible, this muscle take origin, and the muscle fibers, they go inferiorly in the and medial direction. You can see here the muscle fibers go medially and inferior direction. So anterior muscles of the anterior limits of anterior fibers of the mylohyoid muscle, they go medially and inferior direction, and they are interconnected with their fellow on the opposite side. While the most posterior fibers of the mylohyoid muscle, they go medially and inferiorly, and they are attached on the body of the hyoid bone. You can see here on the anterior surface of the body of the hyoid bone. So this is a muscular attachment. They take origin from the mylohyoid line, from the mandible. The muscle fibers go medially and the inferiorly. The most anterior fiber, they are interconnected with their opposite fellow, while the posterior fibers, they are attached on the body of the hyoid bone. This is the genoid mylohyoid muscle. It is supplied by the, it is innervated by the mylohyoid nerve, which is coming from the inferior alveolar nerve, which is a branch of the mandibular nerve. So the mandibular nerve, it supplies the mylohyoid muscle through the mylohyoid nerve, which is coming from its inferior alveolar nerve. Okay. Then we have the function of the, what is the function of this muscle? Function of this muscle, first of all, it gives the structural support of the oral cavity, and it elevating and pulling forward the hyoid bone, and it depresses the mandible in open mouth when the hyoid bone is fixed. So it is help in the initial phase of the swallowing. It fixes the hyoid bone. Also, it depresses the mandible. So it is a function of this mylohyoid muscle. It is helpful in the initial phase of the swallowing. It fixes the hyoid bone and open the mandible. And this is the genoid muscle. You can see it. This is the genoid muscle. Now the second muscle, just superior to the mylohyoid muscle, it is a genoid muscle. Genoid muscle take origin from, this is a cord-like structure in the middle of the mylohyoid muscle. You can see it. These are the two genoid muscles, the right and the left genoid muscle. It is a cord-like structure. It is a cord-like structure that take origin from the inferior mental spine, from the mandible, and these muscle fibers, they run inferiorly and they are inserted on the body of the hyoid bone. The genoid muscle, it is supplied by the nerve to the genoid, which is coming from the cervical plexus from C1. The function of this muscle, the genoid muscle, it again the same function. It supports the oral cavity. It supports the oral cavity, as well as it fixes the hyoid bone and depresses the mandible and open the mouth. It fixes the hyoid bone. It fixes the hyoid bone and it depresses the mandible and open the mouth. It also assists the mylohyoid muscles. So the function of the mylohyoid muscle and the genoid muscle is the same. First of all, it gives the structural support to the oral cavity. Then it fixes the hyoid bone and depresses the mandible to open the oral cavity. The tongue. Okay. The tongue is a mobile and a muscular structure that can assume a variety of shape and position. It is located in the oral cavity. The anterior 2/3 of the tongue, it is located in the oral cavity, while the posterior 1/3, it is located in the oropharynx. It articulates while squeezing food into the oropharynx, as well as in the deglutition, it masticates, taste, and the oral cleansing. The function of the tongue, it squeezing the food, it articulates the word which is produced by the larynx, it masticated the food, the taste of the food, also the taste bud, it is located in the dorsum surface of the tongue. So it tastes the food, and oral, it also takes part in the oral cleansing. Most of the time we use our tongue to cleansing our teeth as well, and the food which is accumulated between the teeth. So its anterior part, it is oral cavity, and it is in the triangular in shape with a blunt apex of the tongue. You can see here. You can see here, this is the tongue. So this tongue, it is the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, which is located in the oral cavity, while the posterior 1/3, it is located in the pharynx, in the oropharynx. Okay. So the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, it is the triangular in shape with the apex. It is a blunt apex on the anteriorly, just from the oral fissure, you can see the apex of the tongue. It is a triangular in shape. You can see this is the apex of the tongue. Then it is the body of the tongue, and this is the inferior surface or the lingual surface of the tongue. And here we have the root of the tongue. So the root of the tongue, they take origin from the hyoid bone, and the muscles of the tongue, they go upward and make the body of the tongue. You can see here. So this is the parts of the tongue. Here we have the oral part, which is the anterior 2/3 of the tongue within the oral cavity, while this is the pharyngeal part, the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, also known as the pharyngeal part. It is located in the oropharynx. Between the anterior 2/3 and the posterior 1/3, here we have the sulcus, and this sulcus, it divides the anterior 2/3 with the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, and this sulcus, it is known as the sulcus terminalis. And this is the root of the tongue. This surface, it is known as the dorsal surface of the tongue. Here we have the inferior surface of the tongue, and here we have the posterior surface or the pharyngeal surface of the tongue. So the tongue has the body, then we have the root, and we have the apex. Okay. The body, it is the surface which is located in the oral cavity, it is known as the anterior surface of the tongue or the dorsum of the tongue. While posteriorly in the oropharynx, we have the posterior surface or the pharyngeal surface of the tongue. And in the oral cavity, in the floor of the oral cavity, here we have the root of the tongue. And this root of the tongue, it is covered with the mucous membrane, and this mucous membrane, it is attached with the floor of the oral cavity by the frenulum of the tongue. Okay. Now you can see here, this is the dorsum surface of the tongue. You can see here, this is the dorsum surface of the tongue. This is the anterior 1/3 of the tongue, while this is the posterior, anterior 2/3 of the tongue, and this is the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. And anterior 2/3 and the posterior 1/3, it is separated by means of the sulcus, and this is known as the sulcus terminalis. Anterior to the sulcus terminalis, we have the papillas. These are the 4 types of the papillas in the dorsum of the tongue or the anterior surface of the tongue. We have the fungiform papillas, we have the filiform papillas, we have the valate papillas, and we have the foliate papillas. Function of these papillas, they increase the area of the tongue, they increase the surface area of the tongue during the chewing movement. Also, it consists of the taste buds. So the taste buds, they are located in the papillas. So we have the fungiform papilla, filiform papilla, valate papilla, and the foliate papilla. Filiform papillas, these are the small cone-shaped papillas on the mucosa of the dorsum of the tongue. On the mucous surface of the dorsum of the tongue, we have the filiform papilla. These are the small, you can see these are the small cone-shaped papillas. And they are located on the middle of the body of the tongue. You can see here, they are located here. Okay. Then we have the fungiform papilla. These are the fungiform papillas. They are located on the lateral margins of the tongue. You can see here, they are located on the lateral margins of the tongue. They are the fungiform papillas, and the fungiform papillas, they are round in shape. You can see here, they are the round in shape. While the filiform papilla, they are the cone shapes, and these are the round shapes, and they are located on the lateral margins of the tongue. And they are in the numerous amount. They are present on the numerous amount. Then we have the valate papilla. These are the largest papilla. They are the cylindrical in shape, and they are the largest in these are the largest papillas, and they are present just anterior to the sulcus terminalis. You can see here, this is a V-shaped sulcus terminalis. Just anterior to the sulcus terminalis, we have the valate papillas, and they are the cylindrical in shape, and they are about 8 to 12 in numbers. Mostly numerous number, we have the fungiform papilla, and the less amount we have the valate papillas. But these are the largest papilla just anterior to the sulcus terminalis. Then we have the foliate papilla. These foliate papillas, they are the linear folds of the mucosa on the sides of the tongue, on the lateral sides of the tongue, just anterior to the foliate papilla. You can see on the side of this foliate papilla, we have the foliate. On the side of the valate papilla, we have the foliate papillas, and these are the linear fold of the mucosa on the side of the tongue, just near to the sulcus terminalis. You can see here. Okay, here. The papillas are generally increase the area of the contact between the surface of the tongue and the content of the oral cavity. So the function of the papillas, generally they increase the area of the tongue area of the tongue between the tongue and the content of the oral cavity. So they increase the area of the content between the tongue and the oral cavities as well. Okay. All the papillas have the taste bud except the filiform papilla. So the filiform papilla, they are absence of the taste bud in the filiform papilla, while in the fungiform papilla, velate papilla, and the follate papilla, they have the taste bud. Now on the posterior surface of the tongue, or the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, you can see here they are the nodules. These are the lymphatic nodules, and these are the known as lingual tonsils. So this is the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. It is a rough surface. It has a rough surface because of the presence of the nodular structures. These are the nodular lymphoid structures, and this is known as a lingual tonsils on the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, or we have the also known as a pharyngeal part of the tongue. This is also known as a pharyngeal part of the tongue, or the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, or the posterior surface of the tongue. Again, you can see here there is a small foramen, and this is known as a foramina cecum. Between the, you can see on the midline of the sulcus terminalis. On the midline of the sulcus terminalis, we have the foramina cecum. The foramina cecum, it indicates the embryological origin of the thyroid gland. Sometime what happened, the thyroglossal duct, it persists, which shows the embryological origin of the thyroid gland, because the epithelium from the tongue, they originate through the thyroglossal duct to form the thyroid gland from the foramina cecum. So foramina cecum, it is the embryological origin of the thyroid gland, because the epithelium may originate from the foramina cecum to form the thyroid gland. Again, the same thing I told you. You can see here. You can see here, this is the body of the tongue. Here we have the posterior surface of the tongue. You can see here the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. This is the anterior 2/3 of the tongue. So the anterior 2/3 of the tongue, it is a smooth, and it is also known as the dorsum of the tongue. And here we have the papillas, the filiform, fungiform, velate, and the follate papillas are located within the dorsum of the tongue. While here we have the sulcus terminalis. Behind the sulcus terminalis, we have the roughened part of the tongue, which is known as the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. Also here we have the nodular structure, and these nodular structures are known as the lingual tonsils. You can see here, these are the lingual tonsils. These are the lingual tonsils on the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. You can see here, this is the hyoid bone, this is the mandibular bone. So the muscles of the floor of the oral cavity take origin from the mandible, and they go towards the hyoid bone, attach on the hyoid bone. So this is the genoid muscle. Below the genoid muscle, we have the myloid muscle. And you can see here, this is the hard palate, and this is the soft palate. All these palate, they are covered with the mucous membrane. So it has a particular characteristic feature we will discuss later. Now the tongue, how the tongue is made up of. The tongue is a mass of the striated muscle covered with the mucous membrane. The muscle attached with the tongue to the styloid process and the soft palate. So it has the two sources of the tongue, the muscles of the tongue. Actually, we have the four muscles of the tongue. We have the platoglossus, we have the styloglossus, we have the hyoglossus, and the genoglossus. All these muscles, they are in the category of the extrinsic muscles of the tongue. While we have the intrinsic muscles of the tongue as well. We have the superior, inferior, longitudinal muscles. We have the vertical and the transverse intrinsic muscles. So we have the total, we have the 8 group of the muscle, like we have the 4 in the intrinsic muscle, 4 in the extrinsic muscle. The extrinsic muscles of the tongue, these are those muscles which are coming from the outside from the tongue. So 2 are above source, mean from they are coming from the base of the skull, while 2 are the below source, they are coming from the hyoid bone or the mandible. So 2 are the lower source, they are coming from the hyoid bone or the mandible, while the 2 are above source, they are coming from the base of the skull. So the extrinsic muscle, they are 4 in number. All these muscles, they are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve except the platoglossus. platoglossus muscle, it is a fifth number in the extrinsic muscle. Actually, the platoglossus muscle, it is a muscles of the soft palate, but take part in the formation of the tongue as well. So the extrinsic group of the muscles of the tongue, they take origin from outside, they take origin from structure outside the tongue and inserted into the tongue. There are four major extrinsic muscles on each side, the genioglossus, hyoglossus, and the platoglossus. Function of these muscles, they protrude, retract, depress, and elevate the tongue. While the intrinsic group of the muscle, the intrinsic group of the muscle are those muscles, they take origin from the tongue and they are inserted within the tongue. So they don't have any external source. They are taking origin from the tongue substance and they are inserted within the tongue substance. So these are the superior longitudinal, inferior longitudinal, transverse, vertical muscle, and the vertical muscle. Main function of this intrinsic group of the muscles, they alter the shape of the tongue by lengthening and shortening it, curling and uncurling its apex and edges, flattening and rounding its surfaces. They are work in the pairs. So the movement, it has a precious movement which is required for the speech, eating, and the swallowing. So these are very important muscles because they alter the shape of the tongue, because they lengthening and shortening it, curling and uncurling it, flattening and rounding the surface of the tongue, which is very helpful for the articulation of the words. And the outcome of this is a speech. Then it is also necessary for the eating and the swallowing process. While these muscles, the extrinsic group, function of this muscle, they retract, elevate, or depress and protrude the tongue. So this is the protrude and retract the tongue, depress and elevating the tongue. And these are necessary for the separating of the nasal cavity with the oral cavity. Now you can see here, these are the extrinsic group of the muscle. These are the platoglossus muscle, one of the muscle from the soft palate. We have the styloglossus muscle coming from the styloid process. We have the hyoglossus muscle, and we have the genioglossus muscle. While in the intrinsic group, we have the superior longitudinal. These are the superior longitudinal. We have the inferior longitudinal muscle. Then we have the vertical muscles and the set of the transverse muscles. So the genioglossus we will discuss. Previously, we discussed the genioglossus. Sorry, we cannot discuss the genioglossus. Genioglossus muscle, it makes the bulk of the tongue and it originates from the superior mental spine. You can see here, they take origin from the superior mental spine. This is the genioglossus muscle, and this is superior to the genoid muscles. This is the mylohyoid. In the mylohyoid, we have the genoid. Then above the genoid muscle, or the superior to the genoid muscle, we have the genioglossus muscle. So this genioglossus muscle, they take origin from the superior mental spines and they are inserted on the hyoid bone. While in the genoid muscle, I show you the genoid muscle. This is the genoid muscle. You can see it. It takes origin from the inferior mental spine above the mylohyoid muscle, and they are inserted on the body of the hyoid bone. Mylohyoid and the genoid makes the floor of the oral cavity. So these are the muscles of the suprahyoid group. While the genioglossus muscle, it is a muscle of the tongue. It is a muscle of the tongue. They take origin from they make the bulk of the tongue, and they take origin from the superior mental spine, and they are inserted on the superior mental spine of the mandible, and they are inserted on the body of the hyoid bone. They are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve, because the hypoglossal nerve, it is a motor nerve to the muscles of the tongue except the platoglossus. Function of this muscle, it depresses the central part of the tongue and it protrudes the anterior part of the tongue out of the oral cavity. What is the function of this muscle? It protrudes the anterior part of the tongue out of the oral cavity like stick the tongue out. Function of the stick the tongue out. It is a function of the genioglossus muscle. जैसे आप अपनी जुबान बाहर निकालते हो या जैसे सांप अपनी जुबान बाहर निकालता है, तो it is the function of the stick the tongue out, or you can say the stick out the tongue from the oral cavity. जिसे जुबान निकालते हैं हम बाहर, it is a function of the genioglossus muscles. Also, it depresses the central part of the tongue as well. Now the hyoglossus muscle are thin quadriangular muscle. It is lateral to the genioglossus muscle. It originates from the greater horn of the body of the hide bone. The hyoglossus muscle, it is lateral to the attachment of the middle constrictor muscles of the pharynx. The muscle passes superiorly and anteriorly through the gap, the oropharyngeal triangle, between the superior constrictor, middle constrictor, and the mylohyoid muscle. And they are inserted into the tongue lateral to the genioglossus muscle and medial to the staloglossus. Function of this muscle, it depresses the tongue and it is innervated by the hyoglossus muscle. You can see here. This is the hyoglossus muscle. This hyoglossus muscle, they take origin from the greater horn of the hide bone. You can see this is a quadriangular in shape. They take origin from the greater horn of the hide bone, the body of the hide bone from both sides. And this muscle fibers, they go upward and medially, and they are inserted with the genioglossus muscle. These fibers, they are intersected with each other with the genioglossus muscle. And this muscle, it is medial to the, it is lateral to the genioglossus and medial to the staloglossus. Staloglossus muscle abhi aayega, main aapko dikhati hu. Okay, so this muscle, it is, what is the function of this muscle? It depresses the tongue and it depresses the tongue. Also, and it is innervated by the hypoglossal nerve. We have the hyoglossus muscle. Actually, it is a very important landmark structure because the lingual artery, it entered the neck deep to the hyoglossus muscle. The lingual artery which supply the tongue, it is just deep to the hyoglossus muscle, while the lingual nerve and the hypoglossal nerve, they are superior to the hyoglossus muscle. So it is very important landmark because the lingual artery, it is inferior or deep to the hyoglossus muscle, while the hypoglossal nerve and the lingual nerve, it is superior to the, or superior, you can say the external to the hyoglossus muscle. Also, you can see here, this is an oropharyngeal isthmus, sorry, oropharyngeal triangle. This is the oropharyngeal triangle. You can see here, the oropharyngeal triangle, it is the triangle for the passages of the vessels from the neck to enter into the oral cavity. So this oropharyngeal triangle, it is bounded superior with the superior constrictor, with the middle constrictor, and with the mylohyoid muscles. So this is the gap between the superior, middle, and the mylohyoid muscle. So this gap, it allows the passage from passage to the vessels. They enter, coming from the neck and enter into the oral cavity to supply the oral cavity. Like we have the lingual hypoglossal nerve, lingual nerve, we have the lingual artery. All they are coming through this oropharyngeal triangle. Staloglossus muscle. Staloglossus muscle, actually it is coming from the base of the skull. This is the staloglossus muscle. The function of this muscle to, it elevate the tongue. The elevation of the tongue, it is carried by the staloglossus muscle. They are coming from the styloid process from the base of the skull. These muscle fibers, they go downward. You can see here through the oropharyngeal triangle. Oropharyngeal triangle के through ये जाएगा oral cavity में, and they are blend with the superior margins of the hyoglossus muscle and with the intrinsic muscles. So they take origin from the styloid process, go downward in the medial direction, and they are merged with the, or blend with the hyoglossus muscle and with the intrinsic muscles. Function of this muscle, it pulls the tongue. It pulls the back of the tongue superiorly. So it elevates the back of the tongue and also they are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve. The plateau-glossal muscle. The plateau-glossal muscle, it is the muscles of the soft palate which also contribute in the formation of the tongue, because function of this, it elevates the back of the tongue. It moves the plateau-glossal arches of mucosa towards the midline. It depresses the soft palate. When it depresses the soft palate and elevates the tongue, means it separates the oral cavity with the nasal cavity during the breathing. So it coming from the undersurface of the palatine epineurosis and passes anterior-inferiorly to the lateral side of the tongue. They take origin from the palatine epineurosis. The palatine epineurosis, it is epineurosis. It is a sheet of the epineurosis, which is the part of the tensor palatine muscle. So it makes the bulk of the soft palate. The tensor veli palatini and the tensor palatini muscle, they makes the bulk of the soft palate, and they are covered with the mucosa. So this plateau-glossal muscle, they take origin from the palatine epineurosis, from its inferior surface, and this muscle fibers, they go laterally on the oropharyngeal up. देखोगे यहाँ पर pharyngeal wall, they run on the lateral pharyngeal wall and make the oropharyngeal isthmus. They are covered with the mucosa. That's why it is known as a plateau-glossal arches or the plateau-glossal folds. Because when this muscle, they are covered with the mucosa, these are known as the plateau-glossal arches of the mucosa, or the plateau-glossal mucosa, you can say, or the plateau-glossal arch, you can say, the same thing. The function of these arches, they closes the oropharyngeal, they closes the oral cavity during the food contained within the oral cavity. When the food present in the oral cavity, this is closed to prevent the food enter into the nasal cavity. And this is innervated by the vagus nerve, because it is a muscle of the soft palate. That's why it is innervated by the vagus nerve. While the rest of the muscles of the tongue, they are innervated by the hypoglossal nerve. So it is a very simple, all the muscles of the tongue, the extrinsic muscle and the intrinsic muscle, except the plateau-glossal muscle, they all are innervated by the hypoglossal nerve, except the plateau-glossals, which is supplied by the vagus nerve, because this muscle, it is a muscle of the soft palate. But they make in the contribution for the oropharyngeal isthmus. That's why we include this muscle into the muscles of the tongue. Okay, arterial supply of the tongue. The major artery of the tongue, it is the lingual artery from the external carotid artery. This artery enter into the oral cavity through the oropharyngeal triangle. You can see they enter into the oral cavity through the oropharyngeal triangle. So it is a branch of the external carotid artery in the neck. They supply the oral cavity and enter into the oral cavity through the oropharyngeal triangle. On entering the tongue, when it enter into the oral cavity, it supplies the tongue. It passes deep to the hyoglossus muscle. I told you before, the hyoglossus muscle, it is a landmark from which the lingual artery, they passes deep to the hyoglossus muscle, while the lingual nerve and the hypoglossal nerve, they are passes external to the hyoglossus muscle or superior to the hyoglossus muscle. The lingual artery then travels forward in the plane between the hyoglossus and the genioglossus muscle to the apex of the tongue. They reach to the apex of the tongue, where it is supplied as a deep lingual artery supply the body, and the dorsal lingual artery that supply the root of the tongue. So the lingual artery, it is divided into the dorsal lingual artery and the deep lingual artery. The dorsal lingual artery supply the root of the tongue. The dorsal lingual artery supply the root of the tongue, while the deep lingual artery, they supply the body of the tongue. The deep lingual arteries communicate with each other near the apex of the tongue on both sides, because we have the lingual artery on the both sides. So the lingual artery on both sides, they are divided into dorsal lingual artery and the deep lingual artery. The dorsal lingual artery, they supply the root of the tongue, while the deep lingual artery supply the body of the tongue. The deep lingual arteries, they are communicate with their fellow on the opposite side near the apex of the tongue. While the dorsal lingual artery, it cannot be communicated because they are present on the root of the tongue and they are prevented by the mucosa, because the mucosa or the septum of the tongue, they separate they cannot allow the communication between the dorsal lingual arteries on the opposite side. The veins of the tongue by means of the dorsal lingual vein which accompanying the lingual arteries. Okay, here we have you can see here, this is the deep lingual vein and we have the dorsal lingual vein. You can see here the dorsal lingual vein and here we have the deep lingual vein. This is the deep lingual vein and here we have the dorsal lingual vein. The deep lingual vein which begins at the apex of the tongue, you can see here, the deep lingual vein, begins at the apex of the tongue. It runs posteriorly beside the lingual frenulum to join the sublingual vein. Okay. It joins the sublingual vein. They begins at the apex of the tongue and they run posteriorly and they are merged, they are joined with the sublingual vein. Okay. And the dorsal lingual vein, okay. So ultimately the dorsal lingual vein and the deep lingual vein, both, this is the dorsal lingual vein, they drain the root of the tongue and they are drained into the, ultimately both they are joined and they are drained into the internal jugular vein. You can see here, they join the internal jugular vein. So the deep lingual vein begins at the apex of the tongue, they drain on the body of the tongue, apex of the tongue, the margins of the tongue, and they are joined the sublingual vein and ultimately they drain into the internal jugular vein, while the deep lingual, dorsal lingual vein, they drain the root of the tongue or the oral cavity and again they are drained into the internal jugular vein. You can see here the more clear picture. This is the deep lingual vein, this is the dorsal lingual vein, and here we have the lingual artery. You can see here, this is the lingual artery from the external carotid artery. All these crosses the oropharyngeal isthmus and they supply the oral cavity and the tongue as well. Innervation of the tongue, sensory innervation of the tongue. The motor supply of the tongue, it is the hypoglossal nerve. All the muscles, they are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve except the platoglossal. This is the motor innervation. While the sensory innervation of the tongue, the anterior 1/3 of the tongue, they are supplied by the lingual nerve, the sensory innervation from the lingual nerve. While the special sensation, special afferents, they are carried by the chorda tympani. So the papilla, they are supplied by the chorda tympani. So the taste buds, they are carried through the chorda tympani, which is a branch from the facial nerve. And the sensory innervation of the oral cavity and the mucosa, gingiva, they are coming from the mandibular nerve through the lingual nerve. Okay. While the posterior 1/3 of the oral cavity, posterior 1/3 of the tongue, they are supplied by the hypoglossal nerve. The general sensory innervation and the special sensory innervation, all they are supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve. So the lingual tonsils and the posterior surface of the tongue, they are supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve. Also the sensory innervation of the posterior 1/3 of the tongue, they are carried by the glossopharyngeal nerve. So the glossopharyngeal nerve, they carry the general sensation from the pharyngeal part of the tongue are carried by the glossopharyngeal nerve. The glossopharyngeal nerve leaves the skull through the jugular foramen and descends along the posterior surface of the stylopharyngeus muscle. It passes around the lateral surface of the stylopharyngeus and then slips through the posterior aspect of the tongue. Posterior aspect of the oropharyngeal triangle, which is made up of the superior constrictor, middle constrictor, and the myloid muscles. Also, they carries the taste sensation, or you can say the papillas just near to the velate papilla. Also, they are carried through the glossopharyngeal nerve. Okay. Now the lingual nerve. The lingual nerve, it is the branch from the mandibular nerve in the infratemporal fossa. In the infratemporal fossa, the mandibular nerve gives the one branch, the lingual nerve. This lingual nerve, they passes, it goes downward, it goes inferiorly, it descends inferiorly and passes through the cave from the oropharyngeal triangle, and they are superficial to the hyoglossus muscles. They travel on the root of the tongue where they supply the sensory innervation of the general sensory innervation of the mucosa of the oral cavity as well as the tongue, and also they supply the alveolar process of the lower jaw. Okay, where you can feel the lingual nerve, we can feel the lingual nerve just behind that third molar tooth. We put or place the finger just behind the third molar tooth, and you can feel the lingual nerve. And here it is a site for giving the anesthesia to the lingual nerve to prevent the, to anesthetize the this structure during the any dental procedures of the lower jaw. Okay, you can see here, this is the lingual nerve. And it also hook around the mandibular ducts. It also hook around the mandibular duct. You can see here, submandibular ducts, the lingual nerve, it hooks around the submandibular ducts and enter into the, supply the oral cavity or the floor of the oral cavity and the tongue, anterior two-thirds of the general sensation of the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. The facial nerve, they give a one branch which is known as a chorda tympani. In the you can say the chorda tympani, it is a branch from the facial nerve within the floor of the middle ear cavity. In the middle ear cavity, the facial nerve gives the chorda tympani nerve, and this chorda tympani nerve, they travels along the lingual nerve and they carries the special sensation from the anterior two-thirds of the anterior two-thirds of the tongue. So all the taste fibers or taste buds or the papilla, they are supplied by the chorda tympani, which is the branch from the facial nerve. Then we have the hypoglossal nerve. You can see here, this is the hypoglossal nerve. This hypoglossal nerve, it descends downward through the hypoglossal canal on the base of the skull. It descends downward in the neck, in the posterior triangle of the neck, and it joins the C1. It joins the cervical plexus, C1 nerve roots, and C1 nerve roots, they travels along the hypoglossal nerve. And this C nerve roots, they leave the, after a short distance, just leave the hypoglossal nerve and they supply the thyroid muscle through the thyroid nerve to the thyroid. Also, after the, then they travels along the hypoglossal nerve and they leave the hypoglossal nerve and they supply the genoid muscles. So the genoid and the thyroid muscle, they are supplied from the C1 nerve root from the cervical plexus, and this C nerve root, they join the hypoglossal nerve. You can see here. Okay. Then the hypoglossal nerve itself, it enter into the neck through the oropharyngeal triangle above the hypoglossal nerve, hypoglossal muscle, hyoglossus muscle, and they travel in the floor of the oral cavity where it supplies all the muscles of the tongue, extrinsic and intrinsic, except the palatoglossus. So you can see here, this is the hypoglossal nerve and this is the lingual nerve. This is the chorda tympani. This chorda tympani, they join the lingual nerve. This chorda tympani nerve, it is a branch of the, it is a parasympathetic branch coming from the facial nerve. They join the lingual nerve within the infratemporal fossa. Now they travels deep to the superior constrictor muscles and then above the hyoglossus muscle, and they enter into the oral cavity through the oropharyngeal triangles and supply the anterior two-thirds of the oral cavity. So the general sensation, they carried by the lingual nerve, while the special sensation of the anterior two-thirds of the tongue or the taste bud, they are carried through the chorda tympani. Now the lymphatics of the oral cavity or the tongue. The pharyngeal part of the trunk drains through the pharyngeal wall into the jugulo-digastric nodes of the deep cervical chain. The oral part of the trunk drains directly into the deep cervical lymph nodes, or indirectly into the submental and the submandibular lymph nodes. While mainly the lymphatics of the tongue have the four roots. Actually, the lymphatics of the tongue have the four roots. Lymph from the root of the tongue, they drain bilaterally into the superior cervical lymph nodes, while from the medial part of the body, they drain bilaterally into the inferior deep cervical lymph nodes. From the right and the left lateral parts of the body, they are drained. So the margins of the right and the left of the tongue, they are drained into the submandibular lymph nodes on the same sides. The apex and the frenulum of the tongue, they drain into the submental lymph nodes. Ultimately, all the lymphatics, they are drained into the superior deep cervical lymph nodes via jugular venous trunks.